Join me as I take on the challenge of breaking free from survival mode and discovering what it means to thrive as a mom. Motherhood is a beautiful journey, but let's be real. Most of us are just stuck in survival mode, just trying to make it through each day without losing our minds. Get this, 75% of mothers say they're barely hanging on, barely surviving, overwhelmed with the demands of motherhood. The impact of survival mode is huge on our mental health. We're more likely to experience burnout, fatigue, anxiety, and depression. We're more likely to feel stuck, hopeless, trapped. And we're more likely to feel like we're just going through the motions, like not really living. Maybe you feel this way. I know when I learned that other moms were feeling this way, I knew I wasn't alone and that there had to be a solution. So I set out to discover what that would be. I've talked in other videos about equal partnership as one of the go-to tools that moms should employ to start feeling less of a burden as a mom. But there's even something deeper than that, and it's our mindset that we got to discuss. Our mindset has us so driven on taking care of everyone else before ourselves that it's become the norm. It's in our ancestral DNA, our lineage. Long before you were born, this is kind of the way it was set out. And it looked a lot different back then. Motherhood, since the beginning of time, looked different back then. But the responsibilities and the overload this day and age, as opposed to back then, are like umpteen degree more severe and intense. Why is that? I think technology, I think demands, I think media, all have us thinking we need to be a certain way that we're not already, and it has us feeling less than, not enough of, and full of guilt. I remember laying in bed with two boys under 2, both in diapers, both very much needing mommy, that I found myself miserable. I'd be on my therapy calls just like, I am not enjoying this. There's got to be something that gives. I mean, what is going on? And I know I was suffering from postpartum depression and with anxiety disorder. So I knew that that was also playing into it, but I also just kind of had a dismal outlook on like, well, this can't be all there is. This can't be my future. And so, yeah, I had to figure something out. I started to question like, why would anybody choose this life? So here's the reality. We love our kids. We love our kids. But we also want to be present and peaceful and happy as a human, right? Not only just as a mother, but as every other role that we've stepped into along our life. And if you're a mom late in life like me, then you also have other things that you've come to identify with as part of who you are that you don't want to detach from. You're not ready to give up that part of you. For me, it's my business. For me, it's my friends. It's my book club. It's like all the things that bring me joy that I don't want to let go of. That motherhood has really stretched me so thin that I didn't always have time for those things. It's a thankless job. So our reward is watching these beautiful souls take up space in the world. Like that brings us joy. But when we can't even enjoy that, what are we left with? It doesn't have to be this way. It's time to break free from survival mode. So what's the cause of survival mode? I believe it's the sheer amount of stress we're under in more than one area of our lives. The culprits, as I see it, are kids, money, clutter, marriage, and lack of self-care. So kids, between the guilt of not being perfect at all times and the endless demands of chores and changes and meals that come with securing another human's livelihood, we're just clowns juggling responsibility after responsibility, and it's a lot. But it's not only up to us. So how can we start to return to that village mentality where we're actually asking for help and start sharing the load with anybody willing to help that has a heart for our offspring? Money and career. Money presents a power struggle in a relationship, and it's often cited as the biggest cause of divorce, financial disagreement, financial disrepair. because money represents our values. And if we're not aligned on our values, then we're really not aligned enough to stay together. At least that's how it feels. So when you're fighting about money, it feels like you're fighting to the death. And a book I love that touches on this topic is by Jancy Dunn, and it's How Not to Hate Your Husband After Kids. And she touches on the money aspect. And she says, yeah, we have to be on the same page financially. You know, kids cost a lot. At least that's what everybody's telling me. I like to stay on the more frugal side. My husband likes to get a toy every outing, every weekend, and it's like, okay, too much. So we're working on it. I mean, I personally think we need a budget for everything, from groceries to gas to vacations. But here's what I take away from really everything I've read about this topic is that transparency is key. It's equal footing. Both parents need to have equal footing in the financial matters, or just partners in the household who are caring for these kids have to have equal footing, equal say, weight evenly on where the money goes. And that will help tremendously on the mental load, the taxing mental load that is sometimes the money decisions. And if you're a stay-at-home mom, let's say that you rely on your partner to fund some of the things that you want to do, it can kind of feel like this imbalance of power and maybe lead to power struggles because it feels like, oh, I've got to ask for this just to get my nails done. That doesn't always feel good. And that's why the push for financial independence is so big with women. And I think the financial push for women to like be able to work at home while raising their kids, like start a business or get a work from home part-time job is so evident in our society today because yeah, we don't want to depend on men or our partners for those types of things. Those little luxuries in life that really amount to self-care. Clutter. The mere presence of anything out of place in my home makes my head spin and my heart race. And that was clearly my problem and something that I had to get over really fast. And we can't declutter when our heads are just so overwhelmed. Our mental, physical, emotional bandwidth is just depleted. Decluttering is like the last thing on our list. But the clutter still remains, right? Visible and always there. And it's like, oh, when am I going to do something about that? And if you're fighting over the clutter, like say clutter in the garage, then it's really a problem. Why is the sight of clutter not as alarming to men as it is to women? I'll never know. I've changed my tune regarding clutter. And yes, spoken from the declutterist, this is a big deal. I let it lie. I let the clutter lie for the days that we've set aside to tackle that particular part of the house, be it bedroom, kitchen, living room, whatever. And in those shared spaces, we all come together and do some version of the cleanup, vacuuming, mopping, sweeping, and what have you. If it's not my day to do that, I do not add that to my plate for that day. When it is my day to do that, I will do that thing and be joyful about it because I know that I was able to do other things on the days that I wasn't doing this. It's not something that's always on my plate. Dishes duty. Here's how to get around dishes duty, which is something that happens every day, 3 times a day, and feels like it never ends. Maybe you hire it out, or if you're doing the cooking, then someone else does the dishes. So it's like you're sharing the load. I do the cooking, you do the cleaning of the kitchen afterward. And then you switch roles. So if he's doing the cooking, I'll do the cleaning. Then there's less of a zap on your energy and your day. Marriage and sex. I used to think that it's like sex was just one more thing I had to do for someone else. After all the tantruming and the touching and the tagging along of mommy, I feel like I had nothing left to give. So it's like sex became way, way in the back of my mind, cobwebs, I didn't care about it. And I found that when my son started to reach toddler age, I had a little more room to breathe and sex became something that was actually enjoyable again, or at least desirable again. But I think up until my second son hit 2, it wasn't really fun because I was nursing. It's like, how do you switch from mom mode to like sex vixen mode? It's like, I can't go from hair up in a bun and milk stains on my shirt to like feeling sexy and ready to lay down and do it. But listen to this. We're coming from stress, fatigue, being overworked, postpartum depression, hormones all over the place, and body insecurities that we're, of course, not going to feel sexy, not going to feel up to sex. It's not like we were single in our 20s and just perky and cute. Like, this is a whole nother side of us. So it took me time to like get back into desiring that again for myself, and really kind of giving into the nature of our relationship, that's very healthy, and it's necessary to maintain the bond. As much as my husband would tell me this and I'd be like, whatever, and dismiss it, it's very true. It's kind of like you can't stop dating each other. There might not be a lot of time to do too much of anything, but it is important, right, to have that conversation other than who's doing this and what's doing that and how much is spent there and all the adulting responsibilities. It's like you got to have a conversation that's just fun and light, and really to be away from the kids or the reminders of really that you're feeling exhausted. So I think there's a give and take with that, like an understanding on both parts, on both partners' parts, that we've got to kind of just have some grace, have some patience with each other, and know that the dynamic between you two as lovers has only changed because now there's like a third party, a third will. And with that third will came all these responsibilities and bodily, hormonal, psychological, physiological changes that the mother often has to endure on her own, unless the husband, or really the masculine partner, comes into understanding. Like, okay, that's what you're going through, and I understand, and here's where the equal partnership comes. When I have to do less cleanup or less managing of the house, less raising the kids, running after the kids, then I feel like, okay, I have some space to feel sexy again, or maybe take a shower and then be ready for sex. So I think the more he steps up, the more I'm also willing to kind of step up into the fun, carefree, romantic, sexual nature that we used to have. Self-care and rest. We're not only depleted in every way, emotionally, physically, mentally, but we're oftentimes sick and tired, right? We talked about in previous videos mental rage and resentment. And it sometimes comes from the ability that men have to rest. It's like, well, there's all this stuff to do. My job as mother never ends, but you can rest. Instead of feeling jealous of that, I started taking on rest as my birthright. And I started putting that top of the list on my to-do list, that I also get to rest. I also get to take some downtime unapologetically and say, like, this is for me. This is how I'm going to mentally, emotionally, physically recoup. And some days, if I am emotionally, let's say whatever time of the month, if I'm just emotionally distraught or angry, right? Because there is that time of the month, ladies, where we're angry. Some of those feelings and hormone changes cause us to feel angry. And if we're not expressing them and releasing and pushing that anger out in healthy ways, like exercise, walking out in nature, forest bathing, if you will, then our outlet is our family. And so we take it out on them. So self-care is paramount when it comes to being a mother. Fitting yourself into your schedule is huge. And so that's why I'm including something in the description below, a free PDF to help you get back into that groove where you are a priority again. Because here's the truth, nothing else matters until we rest. If we're tired, nothing else matters. We can't be our best. We can't do our best. We can't even think at our best. And if we're putting everyone else's needs before ours, then we're running on empty before we know it, and we're crashing and burning. And no household benefits from a mother who's crashing and burning. We need private time, downtime, time to take care of our mental health, our physical health, our emotional health. So what is that? Maybe that's counseling, maybe that's exercise, joining a gym. For me, going to yoga, downtime, reading a book, sitting in your room with lights out and just nothing, no noise, and just like zoning out, staring at the wall. It is okay. If we're not doing things that bring back the joy like that, not to mention bring back our sanity, then we are just living in survival mode. So it's time. It's time to stop living against these unrealistic expectations, trying to measure up, trying to keep up with all of that, and just ending up lost, barely making it. Will we ever be able to really break free? I don't know 100% because the media rules the roost, and the media has such an effect on the culture that we don't really even know how to think for ourselves sometimes. That's why a separation, some downtime away from the media is one of the first things I'd recommend. The more we look outward for our validation, the more it will reign supreme in our ability to measure up. It will be the ruler that we gauge our success against. But how about creating our own ruler? And this is, again, where mindset comes in. What do we define as a successful marriage, a successful motherhood journey, successful kids, a successful household? What do we think that is and should look like? Okay, now take a deep breath. We just went through a lot. So this is what we know. We'll acknowledge that we feel stuck. And now we know why. And so what can we do? What steps can we take to move away from that feeling? Start small. Start tackling one area at a time with your support network or your partner or your family at home to see what can you start to alleviate, remove from your plate, or just lighten your mental load around it by changing your perspective on what is demanded of you. For some help with that, download that PDF I mentioned. If we don't change things and adopt a new empowering mindset as mothers, then nothing will change. No one's going to save us. No one's going to come fix the situation for you. No one is going to redefine motherhood until you redefine it for yourself. In fact, I think society likes how mothers just do it all and would prefer it to stay that way. But here's the good news. We can break free from survival mode and we can start living the life that we want. We just have to first define and then design it. We can start taking care of ourselves. We can start pursuing our own interests, and we can start prioritizing our own happiness. Shift what you believe the mother role means and bring your family along to redefine it with you. Thanks for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And I hope you'll join me in my next video on this topic. And please don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know what you're doing to break free from this, or what your experience has been with just operating in survival mode as a mother, or just your journey of motherhood as a whole. I'd love to hear it. Peace.